Hello and welcome to the Hornet Talk podcast. This is episode 49 of this podcast overall. Next week, we will be celebrating our 50th episode as a podcast. Before we start proceedings today, I'm just going to quickly mention a massive congratulations to the Watford Golden Girls on their title deciding win on the weekend in Cardiff against Gwalior United. They fought really, really well all season long. They had a dip just before Christmas, and then they have come back and started playing very, very well to get down to the Vic for their last game of the season against Bournemouth. It's certainly going to be one hell of a promotion party for Rennie Hector and the Golden Girls. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce my co-hosting team for the evening. So we are joined by Harry Phillips, George Frakish, and Liam Benson. Good evening, Harry. How are you?
Yeah, good. In better spirits than I was this weekend with the dire results. So, how are you, mate?
I'm not bad at all. Terrible results this weekend, but yeah, there's certainly a lot to discuss.
And then, so it's not too upsetting.
Well, yeah. So I think the season's done, but we'll talk about that later. Good evening, George. How are you?
I'm doing good. The only entertaining thing about that game on Monday was Caden having, basically shouting at the stewards at half time.
Yes, let's not mention that one. Good evening, Liam. How are you?
Good evening, Caden. I'm doing really well, thanks. Masters week this week, Masters golf. So I always love watching it. So yeah, looking forward to it. Gives me a break from Watford at least. Hope you're well.
Yeah, certainly. Everyone needs a break from Watford considering how poor we are. So we're going to start off this evening very, very quickly, and we're going to start off talking about our Good Friday game against Queen's Park Rangers. Harry, what did you think of proceedings down at Loftus Road?
Well, it was absolutely terrible, absolutely abhorrent performance from the lads. We came out looking scared, unorganised, horribly tactically. Look, we've had 2 weeks to prepare for that QPR game, and it seems to be a pattern throughout this season. After a long break, we play very, very bad, and it showed again in this QPR game on Good Friday. We looked so unworked. It was horrible all around. The back line was terrible. That we've had as I mentioned just now, we had 2 weeks to figure out that back line, and we're playing a right back at left back and a centre back at right back. Now, I know we don't have many options, but at least play the right back in his correct position. And it in the midfield, terrible. Bove added absolutely nothing to the game, and the front line didn't really create much apart from Kurangard's shot from outside the box. And so, what do you expect? And until Kwadwo Bar came on in the 85th minute, we had nothing to show for in that game. Just absolutely terrible.
Yeah, 100%. I think QPR kind of played us around the park as if we were nothing. We made them look like prime Barcelona, all their one-touch passing. It was certainly a very frustrating afternoon at Loftus Road for us. But what do we expect when we've got a completely makeshift team? Caben, an absolute calamity at the back, and we'll discuss that in a second. Gogliachidze having a god-awful game. Bove looking incredibly lightweight, and the only positive sign was the return of Kwadwo Bar. But it was certainly one horrible, horrible afternoon. George, what did you think of proceedings at Loftus Road?
So at Loftus Road on the 3rd of April, obviously Good Friday wasn't a very good Friday at all. Obviously, we got them 4 yellow cards consisting of Gogliachidze, Ekwah, Bove, and Imran Louza. I think there are a few positives to take from the game. Like, obviously, Imran Louza's back scoring free kicks. Love to see it. Egil Selvik was decent, you could say. He wasn't that bad. And the other two were the return of Kwadwo Bar and also Amin Nabizada getting some minutes. So there weren't many positives, but just some small things that do slowly lead to the major things.
Yeah, and I just want to briefly discuss Eduardo Bove with you, George. He to me was pretty lackluster and looked very very lightweight. I think Ekwa, Bove, and Loser is the perfect midfield, but he didn't look good at all against QPR. And as we'll discuss in a moment, didn't get any minutes against QPR. What did you think of Bove's performance on Good Friday?
Well, just that first bit of that, I'm not really surprised that he didn't get many minutes against Charlton on Monday or yesterday as we're filming this. But I think he was absolutely terrible, to be honest. Like, he only won 2 out of 9 ground duels, which is just 22% out of the duels that he did win. He was dispossessed once, and this stat's all right, but 9 out of 12 completed passes. Like, you should be expecting them to do that. But other than that, like, he had no shots at all and only 2 passes into the final third. So he was, I think at this point, I find him a bit overrated, but we need to just wait for him to live up to his expectation, as he only is just coming back into football.
And do you think that when we signed Bove in the first place, it was a massive vanity signing and a ploy from the owners to say, look, we're doing good things for the club, support us, and that's kind of what they were going for. What do you think?
Well, to some extent, yes. Like, thinking of it through that stance, like, yes, it definitely is. Was a signing to sort of get the fans on board with Gino and stuff, because if like he wanted to get us fans on board, like, that statement signing is exactly what he really needed to do. So I think yes, well, yes, I agree with the statement. Sorry.
Well, unfortunately, depending on what you want to hear, Caden has had some technical difficulties and will not be presenting the rest of this episode. But in his place, he's got the best presenter of all time, Harry, here, and we're going to continue with the episode like nothing happened. So Liam and George are still here, though, so do not worry. We're going to swiftly move on to the Charlton Athletic Review. Liam, what is your thoughts on Charlton in the Charlton game on Monday?
Look, well, I think we needed to show a response on after QPR game, and to be fair, I thought we did. We started on the back foot with Charlton looking threatening in the first 2 minutes, and then Irankunda went straight up the other end and forced a good save from Mannion, because I thought that was destined for the goal. Felt like we grew into the game though, creating plenty of chances. I think Loser got unlucky because that blocked shot when he was hitting it on the volley could have gone anywhere, and I thought it was going to go in the back of the net if it wasn't blocked. Equally though, Charlton could have gone ahead when Doherty hit the post, and I thought that was in, and Silva couldn't have done much about that. So, and then we had a goal disallowed from a set piece. We don't normally score from set pieces, so I was quite disappointed that that goal was disallowed. It was because of Kiramgard, and I feel like it was a bit harsh, but that's refereeing in this division at the minute. Second half, we were much better, starting on the front foot, and the player that stood out most for me, and I think you lads will agree with me, is Nestory Irankunda. I mean, wow, he was just absolutely fantastic start for finish. I think that's probably his best performance in a Watford shirt, if I had to pick one. I think he was really, really incredible yesterday. And I unfortunately don't think we'll keep him for much longer, but I'm sure we'll get onto that another time. But we went 1-0 down after causing Charlton a load of problems. Petry, I mean, he has to do better there. I don't know what he was doing. He just stood there and watched him shite the ball. And that seems to be a problem with Petry. He can go forward, but he can't defend. And that's why we need a banker and Ngakia back. I mean, self-explanatory. He should have done better there. But then the goal came with a very good move. Imran Lose with a brilliant pass. I think we'll get onto it in the Oxford preview, but I think that's Imran Lose's best game in a Watford shirt since Boxing Day. I think Harry said it on Do Not Scratch Your Eyes the other day as well. I do feel like he played really, really well. So I thought the goal was really well worked. We probably deserved a winner. Iran Kunda was causing Mannion and the Charlton defence lots of problems. And I think when I was watching on Sky Sports, that's the most career saves Mannion's made in the league with 9 or 10. So that shows how good Iran Kunda was. And that one chance that hit the bar from 35, 40 yards out, I mean, thought that was destined to go in. But no, I feel like we could have got the win, but we just weren't clinical enough. And I'm glad that Connor Cody's all right, because that was a big hammer blow to the face.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it quite well there, Liam. The game itself, on its own, was a great performance from the lads, and we were very unfortunate not to get a win. We were all over Charlton, and them getting that goal in the second half, as you said, was not unfair. They worked for it, but it wasn't recognition to what has gone on in the game before that, and it was quite plausible that Watford will go back into that game and start firing goals and goals and goals, but it just didn't happen. But the goal itself by Neshro and Kunda, the pass from Loser was magnificent, and as you said, as I said before, it was his best performance by far since Boxing Day. I think if we would have saw more of that Loser in the last couple months, we could be higher up in the table, but unfortunately his drop in form has just been so astronomical that it doesn't look like we can go anywhere for the rest of the season. Imran Loser, though, I'm going to keep going on that topic. Why do you think yesterday he was so magnificent in that game? Do you think it's down to him realising that he hasn't been given all the offers he thought and needs to get a move? Or what do you think, Liam?
Well, look, I think it could be a mix of things. I do agree with you there, Harry. I think probably he knows that he wants to move in the summer, and I think he'll want to attract interest. I don't know what I was even saying there. I do think it was quite tough because he hasn't played well recently, and then all of a sudden he came out with that performance on Monday after, well, not performing well at QPR apart from the free kick, which was a moment of magic. So, I think he's trying to get away into another Premier League side or a top flight side abroad. But I do think he played really, really well, and that partially for me has to be part of the reason why he played so well, because he's edging for a move away this summer.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. George, what was your thoughts on the Charlton game?
Well, the Charlton game wasn't the greatest, to say the least. I mean, there are some positives, but more negatives, to say the least, because we should be winning against a team like Charlton, who are near the bottom of the league. And I think some positives, like Nestor and Kunda, obviously having one of his best games in a Watford shirt so far. And also, I think Amin Nabizada keeps on getting constant minutes in the last 2 games over the Easter period. So I think on Saturday at Oxford away, I think I personally think that he will be getting he'll start from minute 1.
Yeah, that's a fair point, George. Nabizada's appearance off the bench was magnificent, and to not get a win against a side like Charlton is just very poor. And watching that game, we all saw how bad they were, and they have no real quality players. It's all average to below average Championship players who used to play for a crap club named Luton, and so it's very unfortunate not to get a win against that side, especially that horrible manager. Going back to the game itself, Ed Still's tactical change for a 4-4-2 to a 3-5-2. What was your thoughts on that throughout the game as he transitioned with the substitutes like Kwadwo Bar, etc.?
Well, I think with the substitutions, France actually made quite a good decision with them, because obviously bringing Kwadwo Bar on brings pace and strength, and also with obviously so I've forgotten the name. Jesus Christ. I mean, Nabizada coming on. Sorry. I think he is just he's going to be one of the best players in a Watford shirt that we've seen in recent years by the end of next season or the season after, maybe. If he gets consistent game time, he'll definitely be up there for. He'll be a very good player, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. Now, a little bit of disagreement, however, with the Kwadwo Bar comment, as when he came on, I thought it was the obvious substitution, but he didn't really have an effect in that game. Do you think it was down to where he placed himself? Because it felt like he was going across the front line rather staying out wide. Or do you think it just his head wasn't in the game? What do you think it was?
Yeah, to be honest, I think his head wasn't fully in the game. I didn't. Wait, can you repeat the start of that, please? I didn't hear it.
Do you think it was down to his position on the field? Because it felt like he didn't know where he was supposed to play when he was on.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, I mean, sort of. I think that, but I think that's where he normally plays. Though that's the thing. I think it might be because he hasn't been featured in the squad. Like playing at Vicarage Road for quite a long time due to obviously his injuries. So his head might not be fully in the game, trying to be a bit more cautious so then he doesn't injure himself again. But also, I think it's just that long distance of period he's been out for may have affected him.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. So we're going to move swiftly onwards to the main man, Liam, for the Oxford United review. Liam, go ahead.
Thank you very much for that, Harry. So, a rather meaningless game for the Hornets this weekend. However, a really meaningful game for Oxford in their survival hopes. They sit 23rd, level on points with Leicester on 40, just 1 point adrift from safety. So they'll really, really be up for it. I think, I'm getting on. I'll move on to that question in a minute, but we've struggled against teams in the bottom half. So I think this could be a really, really tough task for us this weekend, given that the chance that Oxford have to stay in the Championship next season. So moving on to my first question, and I'll go to George because I know he has to go soon. Only 16 points against the bottom 6 sides this season, including 2 from Sheffield Wednesday. Do you think it'll be a similar occurrence against Oxford, or do you think we'll get the win this weekend?
Oh, without doubt, it's going to be the same. It doesn't help that we're going to be not that we're going to be away, that we're away, because obviously when we're away, it's not great to say the least. I've not got the statistics up, but if I did, I can assure you they're not the greatest. Definitely not the greatest, and especially it's against a lower side team. Oh, it's not even good. It's not going to be that good. Not at all.
Yeah, thank you for that, George. I do think it'll be really, really tough. I mean, we couldn't even beat Sheffield Wednesday twice, and that says it all, really. 2 Vivaldo Sevedo late goals. I mean, says it all. We should have beaten them. And now moving on then swiftly on to a player that we've touched upon in the Charlton game, Harry. That is Nestor Irankunda. He's really stepped up the form recently. I think he had his best game in a Watford shirt on Monday, and he got a brace within 4 minutes off the bench for the Socceroos when he was playing in the international break, and then obviously scored a fabulous goal against Charlton. How good do you think he can be this weekend, and do you think he'll be a lot for Oxford to handle?
Well, I mean, it all depends on which Nestor Irankunda turns up. It could be the one from mid-season, which he doesn't really do much and wanders around the pitch and occasionally has a good through-ball run, or it's the Nestor Irankunda that we saw against Charlton that scared defences, punished defences, and scored goals. That was the best performance by Nestor Irankunda since West Brom 2-1 second game of the season, and he was phenomenal. Scared them, put fear into the defence, and for that to happen, he needs to be on his A game, and hopefully that happens. Again, it could happen. It depends also how Ed still plays, and I'm not sure he really has much of a clue how EA plays. Never mind the players. The game against Charlton remind me slightly of the game against Oxford earlier on the season, which it was just an individual quality that destroyed Oxford. Even though it was only 2-1, we absolutely outnumbered them on the chances, and it felt like that against Charlton. And hopefully we see a little bit of the same again. However, the different dynamic is we are away from home, and with that, we don't have the fans behind us, and there's nothing to play for at this stage. So I could just see us rolling over and giving a win to a side that desperately needs it.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I was hoping at this time in the season that we'd still be up there and challenging for playoffs. It really annoyed me the other day when the commentators kept saying, "Oh well, Watford are in the playoff race." Like, it frustrates me.
It is 1 point closer to the playoffs after Charlton. So.
Yeah, but as we're filming this, I think Wrexham, Southampton are playing tonight. So if one of them wins, be 10, 8, 9. Yeah, it could be any of those. Now, I know George has to go in a minute, so I'm going to get one final question to him. Another player that had an improved performance against Charlton, and me and Harry have both said the same thing about him, probably his best performance since Boxing Day, and a player that you love really, really so much, and that's Imran Louza. Do you think, as we said, he's stepping up the performances to try get a move away from Watford, or do you think he's trying to give the team something to shout about, and do you think he'll be influential on Saturday?
Well, I hope that he's playing well, so then he can help the team, but leaving it a bit too late in me. But I think there's also another two really key factors. For example, I think he's bound to move away in the summer, and I reckon he'll easily get a transfer. I reckon he'll go to a League One team, maybe like a go back there or something. And also, I think he'll be wanting to be called up by Unabi, the new Morocco manager. So I think, for the World Cup. So I think he's trying to ramp up his game massively just in these last few games before, so then he gets noticed and gets called up. Liv, you're on mute.
Well, thank you for that, George. And thank you, George, for joining us. I know you've got to go, so we'll let you go.
Thank you, lads.
Yes.
See you.
Thank you, George.
Right. Thank you, co-host.
Another one bites the dust.
All right. See you, lads.
See
you next week.
And then there were two, Harry.
And then there were two. The best two looking Hornet Talk podcast presenters remain. So we're going to go on to our last topic before we end the evening off, and it's all going to be about the Watford FC accounts from the 2024-25 season. So as Liam is pulling up this Kieran Maguire tweet, it states, Watford submit the 2024-25 accounts for the season they finished 14th in the Championship. This was the first season since relegation that the club was not in the receipt of parachute payments. Here are the figures. Revenue, £26 million, down 55%. Wages, £28.1 million, down 15%. Wages, 108% of revenue, up from 57%. Highest paid director, £471,000, 2024, 1.085 million. We can all assume who that is. Underlying loss, £28.5 million, up 152%. Player sales profit, £15.8 million. Interest costs £3.5 million, mainly on loans from group. Pre-tax loss of £16.1 million. 2024 profit of £12.7 million. Player purchases of £2 million. Player sales of £17.6 million. Total borrowings, £69.6 million. Total losses over the years, £66 million. Club is controlled by a company in Luxembourg, and there's fans considering setting up a GoFundMe campaign to make up in the shortfall. Now, these figures state how we have improved slightly on the wages department and decreasing those wages, although I'm quite surprised as it's 2024-25 and we still had Sissoko on the books then, walking around our midfield doing absolutely nothing, as well as Angelo Ogbonna, who was a useless football player. If you all remember that when we lost away to Luton, he was terrible on that day. The highest paid director, look, he's obviously taken a cut. I assume it's Scott Duxbury from his £1 million, around £1 million to £500,000. Fair play to him, but still, I don't really see what he does at the club, and still earn that amount of money is ridiculous. The underlying loss of £28.5 million, up 152%. Now, I assume that's mostly down to the absence of the parachute payment stated earlier on, and that buffer of money helped us stay afloat or even above afloat, as it mentions later on. And so with the absence of that money, it just shows how much of a detriment it is to our football club. Interest costs £3.5 million. I assume that's from us taking loans from certain organisations or loans from the owner, which is why we are so deeply in debt to Gino Pozzo. Player sales, 15.8 million. That's all of the player sales we've made as of late. I don't know who it includes and doesn't include. It may include the sales of Yasser Asprilla, which it may do. I would be interested to learn more about that. The pre-tax loss of 16.1 million. Now, that is the most important number. It shows how hard it is to run a championship football club. And to put that in perspective, in 2024, we had a profit of £12.7 million. And it's really upsetting to see how, with the lack of investment from the ownership, as well as the lack of thought behind certain purchases or managerial appointments, how we've now plateaued in the championship, consistently now finishing mid-table rather than pushing and creating plans to possibly move up the divisions. And it's upsetting to see. Player purchases of 2 million, as we're all aware, we didn't spend much money in the 2024-25 season, which was the detriment to our season, as we didn't invest in January, and that was the reason for us having the worst form in the second half of the year under Tom Cleverley, with the front line led by Vacuum Bio. And as we all know, he wasn't a fantastic striker by any means. And it's really upsetting to see how sad and depressing these accounts look. And if we had we all know how hard it is to run a club in the Championship, and Scott Duxbury runs on it the whole time. But with the incompetency from certain individuals, I'm not going to start naming names, it just makes it even worse. And sacking managers consistently just puts extra money on the books that we didn't need. And if you create correct managerial appointments, we wouldn't have to have done that. Player total borrowing 69.6 million. Now, I'm not sure that's really out of the ordinary for a championship club to be borrowing a lot of money. What is out of the ordinary is for it to have a 66 million total losses over the years, which shows our investment of money is absolutely terrible, and we don't see any profit. We don't really see any profit whatsoever coming from that investment. And who is that investment really for? Is it for Gino Pozzo himself, which I assume it is, or is it to improve the squad, which has really been stagnant over the last few years up until this season, which we've seen a slight improvement, but not a cohesive improvement, and it's really sad to see. I'm just going to ask you a quick question, Liam, before we move on to the end of the episode. You see that number of 69.6 million in total borrowings. How do you explain the poor performances from the last few seasons, but then see that staggering amount of money we've borrowed? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a tough one because obviously borrowing such an amount of money when we've not been performing that well, maybe it could have gone into players, we don't know. But I mean, it seems unreasonable that we're borrowing that much money that we can't put a performance in with a team when we could be investing in the squad. I do think it's not great that we're borrowing that much money. I think it's quite a sum of money, which is something to worry about. I almost feel like it's not something I know a lot about, don't get me wrong, but the performances haven't showed on the pitch that, well, we've borrowed a lot of money and we've invested, so we've been putting better performances in. So it's a bit of a weird one, but I do think performances should be showing how much money that we've sort of, well, borrowed, because we should be seeing maybe improved performances on the pitch. I do think maybe some of it's gone elsewhere, player wages, staff wages, there's a lot of other stuff that comes into that. So yeah, it's tough to see. We just haven't seen it on the pitch at all.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. For me, it's not necessarily the sum of money. It's I worry who is investing that sum of money that we're borrowing, and if it's individuals that we trust, such as hierarchy at the club, who seem to don't know how to recruit a correct manager, never mind invest £69.6 million. And so it creates a struggle for me to go and support this ownership, as too many Watford fans feel their time has run out. And so I'm looking forward to see that maybe creating something for the fans to help the club, or even persuade opinion in the hierarchy and change who is at the top of this football club, which is one man, Gino Pozzo. So thank you, Liam, for being the only person who has stayed with me. Well, not with me. Started off with Caden, and then he dropped off. It's been a bit of a crazy episode today with technical
It definitely has.
difficulties.
It definitely
Yeah.
has. I think.
But it's been a crazy season at Watford Football Club, and so we can expect nothing more. Thank you for joining us through this whirlwind of an episode, talking about QPR game, which was horrid, the Charlton game, which was a little bit more improvement, but we should still be defeating sides like Charlton, as well as Liam's in-depth, wonderful review on our game against Oxford this coming weekend, and lastly, talking about the accounts. Hopefully you join us back next week for another episode,
We'll have everyone.
as well as Unfiltered on Thursday, which will be presented by Caden, hopefully, if he can figure out how to work a laptop, and me as well. So join us then. But till then, see you a lot later. Thank you, Liam, and bye-bye.
Well, we thought we were ending the episode there, but I'm delighted to say that Caden is back. So what we're going to do now, we are going to get on to predicted lineups for the Oxford game and how we think we'll set up. I can't believe we're back somehow after we've just gone through that. But no, we'll go to Caden on his miraculous return. Go on, Caden. Predicted lineup. Who do you think is going to start against Oxford?
Yes, technical difficulties have been my downfall this evening. I'll be very, very quick because my laptop's saying it's overheating. In goal, Egil Selvik. I think that's nailed on. I'm hoping that Boller is back, so Boller into the starting 11. Pollock, and it's going to have to be Gogliachidze, and then a Bankwa at right back. But I'm hoping that Ngakia will be back. A Bankwa can go to centre back next to Pollock, and Ngakia can go back at right back. My midfields, basically same as always, what I've always called for. Loser, Bove, and Ekwa. And then a front three of Nabazada, Dumbia, and Iran Kunda. I thought Nabazada was absolutely incredible against Charlton on Monday, and I really want to see him excel in this team. I'm hoping he gets the chances from now until the end of the season. I'm not confident that he's going to get so many starting minutes, but we'll see what happens. I'm praying to the gods that he plays. I think Chakvadatse needs to be dropped. Kieran just can't play, and I think it's probably going to be a bit too soon for Bar.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think it probably will be a bit too soon for Bar, but then again, I've put him in my predicted lineup, not to spoil it, but I have, just because I want to see him maybe play a 45. But I do agree with you, Nabazada was good when he came on, so starting him over Chakvatadze is definitely a good option. But then again, I saw a stat that Chakvatadze created 10 plus chances in the match, which was the most in the championship since 2014 or something like that. I think it was that. And so then again, he does create chances, but as we saw, he had a chance, he was in on goal. His end product is really, really poor. 3 goals in like 100 and something games when he's a winger / attacking midfielder, which really isn't good enough. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Oxford predicted lineup. So I'll go to Harry before we go to mine. So Harry, fire away with your predicted lineup.
Thank you, Liam. With Caden's return, I'm going to have to agree with him on quite a lot of his predicted lineup. In goal, Egil Selvik. I think we explain it every time. Nathan Baxter's not good enough. At right back, I would love to see the return of Jeremy Ngakia, but I just don't think he'll be ready yet. And so I'm going to go with Jeremy Patrice. At centre backs, I'm going to go with Matty Pollock alongside a Bankwa. And at left back I think Mark Bowler will be ready for the game on the weekend. And as he seems to be quite a healthy footballer, playing almost every game up until Stefan Mfuni came in for Watford. And so he'll be my left back of choice. In the midfield, I'll be going the Parleys Mendy alongside Imran Louza. Imran Louza's performance, as we touched on earlier, was magnificent against Charlton, and I would love to see a little bit more of that against Oxford. In front of the two midfielders, I will be going on the left, Amin Nabizada. He needs to start. He needs to be developed into a starting player for us next season, as we are quite going to be losing a lot of talent in the summer. And so Amin Nabizada will be my left winger of choice. In the centre, I will be going with Chakva Tadze. He needs to be playing down the middle, and I would love to see that more, especially against an Oxford side that on paper is quite weak, although they are fighting for their lives at the moment. And on the right, I will be going with Nestroy Irankunda. He was magnificent. He was phenomenal against Charlton. There was no debating him being the man of the match, and I want to see more of that player we saw on Monday. And up front, it's a tricky one, but I will be going with, controversial, Vivaldo Semedo. We've seen enough of Kiringard. We've seen enough of Dumbia. Let's give Vivaldo a bit of a start. I know he started against Stoke, and I felt that he did all right. But let's see if he can develop into a player for next season and hopefully become one of our mainstays in the side.
Yeah, I really, really like that, Harry. I do think maybe Semedo is a good option to test him at the striker role. And I do like the shout of Nabizada at left winger. Now, before I go on to my predicted lineup, I've noticed something also that we haven't talked about today, and that is that Edo Kayembe was blocked from returning to play over the Easter weekend. Now, Caden, I know you're not the biggest fan of Kayembe, but I just want to know your thoughts on this. Do you think it was bad that Kayembe wasn't let back for the Easter weekend period? Because we probably could have done with him maybe in midfield, I think.
Well, I think the score probably would have been worse. But in terms of squad numbers, he would have been useful to fill a spot on the bench. It's wrong that they haven't let them go because obviously it breaks a lot of rules. But I guess the Federation are just extremely happy that they're obviously through to the World Cup, and they just want a massive celebration. But it's still no excuse to keep players in your country and not let them leave their international camps to rejoin their clubs when they need to leave 48 hours before a fixture. We could have done with him, as I said, for squad numbers. And I think if they've allowed them back now, he probably will be in and around the team against Oxford on Saturday.
Yeah, I personally think, I don't know if you boys agree with me, and I'll ask Harry the same question in a minute. I think he probably would have started one of the last two games, whether it be QPR or Charlton. I do think he probably would have started because he's a prominent starter. So it was a bit of a weird when I didn't see him in the team sheet or on the bench in the last two games. It did surprise me a lot. Now I'll go to Harry on this one as well. What do you think about the Edo Kayembe situation? Do you think it's wrong of them for not allowing him back? And do you think we've missed him? Because I think maybe we kind of have.
I think we've missed him big time. He brings a sense of assurance to our midfield that the likes of Bove or when Dumbia was playing against Charlton there just didn't bring. And we saw that in that Bristol City game before the break. He helped Bristol City game as well as the Wrexham game. He helped our midfield develop and score goals. And he was great in those two games in particular. He brings this sense of threat that other midfielders don't. For example, in the QPR game, Bove, so soft, so weak that he just didn't add anything. And if we had Kayembe in that midfield, I thought we could see a little bit more and maybe attacking prowess or a shot from nowhere, which he seems to like to do, possibly fly into the net and possibly grab a point or even a win in that game. And it's sad to see what the Congolese Federation is doing, keeping their players there, but there's no surprise. And I've also heard a few rumours, I'm going to overuse this joke again and again, that Caden and his sources has cancelled all the flights from the Congo, so Edo Kayembe can no longer play for Watford. Is that true, Liam? Have you heard that?
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that too. Caden,
Can
wanna
you
comment on
can
that,
you
Caden?
confirm?
Can you confirm or deny?
Obviously, I haven't. He's a terrible player, but I wouldn't stop a player from coming back
So,
to Norwich when we need the squad
it's
numbers.
fake news, Caden.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for confirming.
Thank you for that, lads. Now, I'll go into my predicted lineup because why I asked you that question, well, you'll find out in a minute. But we'll get onto my predicted lineup before we go to Caden to end the episode. Who would have thought it? But anyway.
End
right.
the episode for a second time.
Yeah, well, this time is properly, I promise. Okay, so starting in goal, Selvik. I mean, not the best keeper in the world, but he is a good shot stopper. Probably could have done more for QPR's goals on Good Friday. So yeah, I'll keep Selvik in goal. And obviously, I think Alfie Marriott's been recalled from loan, so Baxter must be suffering with an injury, which is obviously another area that, well, that's why he hasn't come in. Then right back, I've gone for James Abankwah. Hopefully he will return. If he can't, then sadly we're going to probably have to see Kevin Keben there or see him play at left back like he did play at Charlton. Central defence, again, we don't really have any other options apart from Tolmendi. So I've gone with Goggles at centre back alongside Pollock because, I mean, Pollock's not going to drop out the side because he is our best defender. I stand by it, and Caden agrees with me, and I'm sure Harry does. He is probably our best defender. But we have no choice but to play Goggles because we don't have another central defender. Left back, again, Petri or Kevin could play there because if Abankwah was available, then I would love to see Abankwah at right back. So we'll keep that at that. Then in midfield, he dropped out on Monday. Don't have a clue why, but I'll bring Pierre Ekwa back into the side. I think he's been pretty consistent for us. I like him in the midfield. Hopefully we can make his option permanent in the summer. I think he'd be a really good addition into the side. And yeah, hopefully we can make that deal permanent. But anyway, continuing, Loser, hopefully he can continue his good form. He played well against Charlton. He was probably our best player, bar Iran Kunda. I think he was a really, really good player. He was really, really good. And yeah, that pass was just superb. I mean, you don't see much better than that. And the finish topped it all off. Now, obviously, I asked you about Kayembe, and this is partly why, because I have put Kayembe back in my starting 11 because I think he adds a lot. I can see Caden's head in his hands, but I think he adds a lot to the side. He scores goals. He adds a lot. So, again, that's why I
completely agree, Liam. What a magnificent player he is.
Yeah, I mean, he has to start for me, but that's just my personal preference. I think he's been a good player for us. And maybe, Caden, maybe we'll see the thing that you don't want to see, which is a contract extension for Kayembe.
5 more years. 5 more years. 5 more years. Can we get that going in the away end?
Five more years, Kayembe. No, we probably won't hear that. No, anyway, continuing. Right winger, I mean, there's no doubt who's going to play there. Iran Kunda's going to stay there. He's been really good past few games. As I talked about in the Charlton review, he scored twice in 4 minutes for Australia in the international break, and then obviously topping it off with a goal. And the Michael Jackson celebration again against Charlton, which we didn't get to see at QPR, but I do enjoy that celebration. Then on the left, again, I do agree with you lot. Nabizada could go there. However, I would like to see Bar maybe get a 45 minutes. So I'll put Bar there for the start. And then second half, maybe bring Nabizada on to the left-hand side. Because, again, I like Nabizada. I thought, again, Caden, you have told us about him a lot. I do think he added a lot. And he looked up to the level. So Nabizada, again, isn't a bad option. But, again, I agree with you, Caden, down the centre. I've gone for Mamadou Doumbia. I disagree with Harry a bit. I don't think Semedo's the right man for the job, although we've got nothing to play for, so why not try something different? I mean, we could try him up top. We've seen it a few times, but most of his goals, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but most of his goals have been late winners or late equalisers. So, yeah, I mean, we would love that again, maybe off the bench. So we'll see. But that concludes my predicted 11 for Oxford, and who would have thought we'd been here after ending the episode? Without further ado, I will hand over Caden to end the episode for the final time.
Yes, thank you very much, Liam. Sorry about this being a topsy-turvy episode. We hope it's been as as watchable as possible for you all. As I said at the start, next week we're celebrating our 50th episode, so please join us for that. We thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you, as says by his title, thank you to Harry for stepping in for me in the moments of technical difficulties. Thank you, as always, to Liam. And finally, thank you to George Frakish, who also has experienced massive technical difficulties. Let's hope that this is all fixed by next week. Trust me, it's not our fault. But we hope to see you on Thursday for the Hornet Talk podcast, Unfiltered. And check our Twitter page as we have an exciting announcement over there. So go and give your opinions on our announcement over there. And we will see you all next week. You ons.
Yeah.